happy networking with us state officers, and have a good conference.
Well, let's get started then. Thank you, Kale. A few things before I move on to our first topic here. The three of you that have decided to join us today, thank you. We appreciate it. Advantage to you guys. You're getting to speak with us firsthand, and I'm going to encourage as much participation as possible from you guys, because like I said, you guys are really giving yourselves a leg up here by being in this Zoom room with all the state officers at once. Yeah, and I think as much participation as you're able to give us will make this a more beneficial experience for all of us. And I think that way also you're not just listening to us talk at you the whole time as well. Yeah, so feel free to turn your camera on, feel free to open your mic up even. There's just a few of us in here and we're trying to really have an open dialogue today as much as possible. So our first topic that we're going to try to discuss a little bit today, I'll kind of start out and get the ball rolling, and then other officers or anyone else that any other members that have questions or ideas on the topic can chime in as well. So we're going to talk at first about what are the best ideas or best practices as far as recruitment for new members. We can talk in a general sense, I guess, and we can talk in a current sense, which is a pandemic. It's probably recruiting members during a pandemic and not a pandemic are probably two completely different things. Yeah, so I mean, as far as recruiting during regular years, it's pretty simple. I mean, we all know that we try to do the career fairs and the student club fairs and things like that to try and get the word out about ourselves. And I think that something that's pretty beneficial to DECA is that in our business programs at our respective schools, DECA has pretty good reputation, and it's known as something that students should do to maybe give themselves a leg up. And I think that's something I always try to emphasize as well when I'm talking to prospective members, even, or just even faculty. I guess I think that getting others to be your best advocates as well, not just yourself, is really important. Yeah, and then as far as recruiting in a pandemic goes, I mean, I think all of us are probably struggling with getting new members involved. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast right now. I think this year is not what any of us expected, and it's not what any of us want. But I think that as leaders, us all in this call have the responsibility to, make the best of it for all of our members. And I think that that's always what we're going to try and do. So recruiting members in a pandemic, I mean, in a virtual format, it's tough. A lot of it's got to be catering towards people that are maybe kind of craving that human interaction, I guess. And you can do that virtually, and you can do that in person too. But I know that some of my best friends are through DECA, and I think that if you the correct kind of leadership, you can kind of create a family type atmosphere in DECA, and you can kind of make it so that people want to come to the meeting. It's not just a chore, I guess. It's not just you're just running through an agenda and then leaving. You have there's kind of a togetherness about it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, and I think that's something I try to emphasize when I'm trying to recruit people in a pandemic to kind of join DECA, because I mean, it is a tough sell to just when you don't know what the entire year is going to look like. And I think that student orgs, not just DECA, everything else has been affected by that during the pandemic as well. So at this point, I will open it up to any of the other officers if they have anything to add to that topic, or if any members of the conference, Jacob or Michelle or Matt, if you guys have any questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can certainly open your mic up and discuss that way too.
I would say one of the biggest things about kind of getting new recruits is, especially during the pandemic, is telling your story. Explain to them things you've done in the past and why DECA means so much to you and why it should mean so much to them. It's very hard to describe what DECA is and what you're going to get out of it without actually experiencing it. And that's what I tell people. Like when Jackson first came to DECA, I kind of told him, I was like, it's hard to explain. But once you experience it, you'll know that you'll have all these different tips in the real world. You'll get to meet and network with a lot of really cool people, and you'll just learn so much about everything, and no matter what degree you are.
I think for me, one idea that I had growing up was most of us are business majors, right? So for school right now, for me, I take all D2L classes basically. And at the beginning of the semester, you know, the first assignment discussion group is introduce yourself for the most part. So even sharing your DECA story and just saying how you're involved in it, and it helps improve your business aspect and broadens you. I think that would really much help introduce DECA to your classmates, even because they might just be in it just to take the class and get their degree and so on. But if you share personally what your DECA story is on D2L to your class, I mean, the people are probably going for the same degree you are. So if they aren't in DECA already, they might be convinced if you start doing that.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of some of what's been said, I think Kale makes a really good point about being able to tell that personal story about DECA to get people involved with the organization, because like he said, it's tough to give like a short 2-sentence description of what DECA is. It's a lot more, there's a lot more to it than that, you know. And I think that being able to explain and really show that you mean that DECA means something to you, I think that can be contagious at times, and it can draw other people in. And as far as what Madison said about it being beneficial to other majors as well, that's definitely has been my pitch too. Because I mean, while yes, our events are catered towards maybe some more business type environments, I think that the skills you take away from DECA are going to be skills you're going to need in your life, no matter what. You're going to have a job interview at some point. DECA is going to prepare you for that with competition and just being in front of judges and networking, hopefully in person one day, not just like this. But I mean, there's a whole bunch of other different skills that DECA can give you, even if you're not a specific business major. I mean, I don't want to speak for JP, but JP is not a business major, and JP is a pretty successful DECA member, as you can see on the state board.
A big thing that comes when it comes to like recruiting new members, I would like to say, we touched a lot about like sharing your DECA story and stuff. And if you're like a member, just a member of DECA, or if you're on an officer team of some type, a big thing is if you hear students, like other students or friends that you have who go to college with you and stuff, and who are looking for an organization or looking to kind of grow in leadership potential or gain like public speaking skills, or they just want to try something new. I think a big thing to kind of do in that sense is to like reach out to them, say, hey, well, have you heard of DECA? Have you heard of like this awesome organization and stuff? And like kind of like pitch it to them. And if it piques their interest, well, tell them to come to one of the meetings, because it doesn't cost any money to just attend one meeting for a student to just try it out, just to see maybe this is something I want to like, and then they can pay their dues then and be a member of the organization and stuff. But it doesn't hurt to try. And so if you know people who definitely want to try or are looking for something else to kind of looking for a way to get involved, a great way to do that is just to be a part of DECA, because it's a great organization to be able to grow and stuff. So I see, Michelle, that your camera, that you turned your camera on. Do you have anything that you would like to talk about when it comes to recruiting members?
No, I completely agree though. Like I've tried to recruit a few people myself, and you know, I always tell people, you know, we've had art majors in our group and they get just as much out of it as everybody else. They enjoy it, they have fun, they meet different people. It's all about the networking and just like that initial like communication experience too. So.
And with especially this year being more difficult too because of COVID, I think a big factor that goes into it is not only like knowing people and being able to reach out to people that way, but social media. Like, I mean, on our hands, we're able to reach out in social media through our DECA profiles, like on LinkedIn and on Instagram, and say, hey, we're an organization, you should come try us out. But like on other like members social medias and stuff, they can reach out and say, hey, if you're looking for an organization to join or be a part of, you should come try out DECA sometimes. So I think social media is definitely a big factor that goes into it. And then another thing that's difficult with COVID, of course, because we can't really do too much stuff in person, but we can still put on events. Like we could still put on events like over Zoom or something like that, and then have people attend. And if it's something that they want to be a part of, they can definitely try it out. So, okay, well, I think in order to, I think that kind of sums up about stuff with when it comes to recruiting new members and stuff. So, yeah.
I have something to say if you guys can hear me.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I think is really important, I'm sorry if the people who are here, I'm in a car right now, so if I cut out, that's my bad, and I'll stop the video. Give me 1 second. But basically what I think is really important for DECA when you are networking with people is speak to who they are. If they really like to build on their skills, such as business skills or leadership skills, that is one thing that I think is super important. On top of that, if they really want to learn more about business, tell them about all the business opportunities they have. Just speak to the person and what you think that they would be interested in, and that will keep to their interests more than just spewing a bunch of facts. Like, relate to them. People want to be related to.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, DECA is definitely, if you were to say it's one thing, it's definitely business related. It's definitely for people who are interested of going into business, but it's also, like, I know many members who aren't necessarily business oriented, like myself. Like, I'm paralegal right now. I'm sort of business if I was to go into business law, but just being a paralegal student, like a great thing for me would be just being able to speak with clients and stuff, and being able to have one-on-one conversations and keep it going and stuff. And you can definitely get skills like that. You can definitely get speaking skills, whether if it's public speaking or if it's speaking one-on-one, because of your interactions with the judges, you're having a one-on-one conversation. It definitely really helps a lot. So we're going to go ahead and transition into the next topic of discussion. We would like to hear from your guys' ideas. Yeah, there's she makes a good point in the comments. The executive director of Minnesota Collegiate DECA is a theater major, so it's not necessarily just you have to, if you want to be a part of DECA, you have to be business related. You can be any organization. You can be a part of any major or any organization, and then also be able to be a part of DECA. So, but moving on into the next topic. We would like to hear from your guys' ideas, kind of just about what your chapter's been doing to engage with their members. What activities have you guys been doing that have turned out to be really successful? So I'm going to go ahead and pick on Michelle to hear kind of what's been going on at the MSUM chapter and stuff. So.
Yeah, of course. I always like to give a big shout out to our mock comp that we do every year, or at least for the last couple of years since I've been here. In the fall semester, we do especially oriented towards like the newbies in the group, just to get a taste of like what you're actually getting into. You guys mentioned earlier, like DECA is kind of hard to explain without experiencing it first. And so right away in the fall, we try to do like a quick mock competition. So those newbies understand like the tips and tricks that we give them. So they get a taste of like what it will look like when we do go to state in February. So that's one of my favorite things that we do. Really gets students to get to know each other too. We usually try to pair them up with upperclassmen that have been in the group for a few years. So that way they get to work with somebody who is knowledgeable about the program already and knows a little bit about it. And that way they have that person to go to later on throughout the semester too. If they have any questions, they're a little bit more comfortable with them. Another thing that I think that we've been doing particularly well this semester to connect with our students is that we offer Zoom and in-person meetings. I think that that was a very good option by our officer team this year. For instance, like I will be going home after Thanksgiving break, so I won't be able to attend any of our in-person meetings if we continue to have any for the rest of the semester. So I just like that option where if I need to go home or if I were in quarantine, like I do have the option to still stay connected with my members.
Yeah, Zach and the other officers have done a really, really good job at especially incorporating not only switching from, because the meetings don't even take place in our School of Business, they actually take place in a different hall with a much larger room, so that way we can space out individuals, so that way we can practice safe guidelines and stuff. So you guys have definitely done a phenomenal job of putting on both in-person meetings and then being able to also host it over Zoom at the same time. I think that you guys incorporated that very, very well. And so I've been glad that I was able to be an individual too. If I couldn't necessarily be on campus, I could still be a part of the meeting via Zoom. So that's definitely been a really, really good thing that you guys have done at the MSUM chapter to be engaged. So what about any other chapters? What else has been going on? What else has other chapters been doing to kind of keep engaged while we're going through this pandemic and stuff? So if anybody else wants to talk.
I can talk a little bit about what the Zoom in-person setup is kind of like. Like, it might sound like it's complicated. It's really not. I set up my laptop and I steal a webcam from our advisor, and I just set it in front of the officer group at the front of the room when we conduct the meeting. And if I have like a few slides or something for the meeting, if we're going over something, I just share the slide like I would share my screen anytime with like in a Zoom meeting. So it's not difficult, I would say. It just takes like an extra 5 minutes of prep work before the meeting to do it. And like Michelle said, a lot of people do utilize it. It's not, we have as much participation in person as we do over Zoom now. And I think that's probably going to remain the case as things get more and more interesting in the Midwest with COVID. So yeah, does anyone Madison or Kale or Jackson, do you guys, what are you guys kind of doing on your campus with DECA meetings, and how is that working out for you guys?
We have it all virtual as our campus is closed. So we switched our meeting time to in between some of our advisor James's classes. And so it's 10 to 11. And so right after the class, you stay in the same meeting. It turns into the DECA. And it's going pretty good. We are trying to figure out how to fundraise during the pandemic because we can't actively go out. Winona is kind of a hot spot right now, so we all have to be very careful, and that's proving to be a challenge. But otherwise, it's going as well as can be expected due to the times.
Yeah, we're also just a small school in general. So generally we're a 2-year program usually, and we typically only get the same students 2 years in a row. But for our case, the returning students were about 4 members, which includes me, Kale, and Jackson, and then some newbies. So it's just been kind of hard in that perspective because us 3, we're state officers now. I have a full-time job and they all are students, full-time students, and have a part-time job. So it was just, we try to help advise our chapter as much as we can. We aren't as well incorporated in it as you are to yours, Zach.
And it helps being able to see each other in person too, which you guys can't right now. So, and I mean, we're lucky that we can, and but I mean, we're probably headed in the direction maybe where we can't. So, and I think that that's just another thing that in this world that we live in, we have to overcome. And I said this earlier, but I think that it really is our responsibility as leaders a little bit to overcome and adapt as much as possible to still make it the best experience we can for our members. Samantha, welcome. Good to see you again. Does anyone have anything to add about how you're engaging members or what you're doing on campus, and then with DECA? Otherwise, we can move on to how we're maybe overcoming some of all those challenges we've talked about today. Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay. So we talked a little bit about this already, and it comes up naturally in discussion because like I said, this is the world we live in with COVID and everything else that goes along with that now. So obviously the big challenges we've had to overcome, we've talked about a little bit with COVID, are getting new members. It's because I think that it's a tough sell right now and everything's virtual, or most everything is virtual. Just getting engagement like we've talked about, and I mean, just still making it a great experience too. It's one thing to put the thing on and get new members, but I mean, that you still want to make it so that it's worthwhile for our members. So I think something we've done at MSUM a little bit is still try to we try to keep, like, we have like a general structure, I guess, of what the first semester kind of looks like. It's more so like we would do like the leadership conferences like we do in the fall with innovation, emerging leaders, and things like that. And then we would have people come in and do like a LinkedIn workshop or do like a resume workshop or something like that. And we would always do that in the first semester, just because in the second semester you get back from winter break and then it's time for state, pretty much. Like, it comes pretty fast. So we try to get a lot of that professional skills building stuff done in the first semester, and we've tried to keep to that this semester, just to provide some normalcy and still try to, again, provide the best experience that we can for our members as we move along in this in an environment that's not normal. At the same time, we should acknowledge that I think that this isn't anything that's normal or ideal, and everyone should be given a little bit of leeway on that and room to make mistakes as well. But yeah, so that's kind of how I've been approaching it. I don't know if other officers have ways they'd like to chime in. I see Amy opened her mic.
Yeah, so for my chapter, it's very different than everybody else's because I go to SEC College. Our chapter is making culinary students a culinary focus. So for us, we have to practice in the kitchen. We're practicing doing culinary specific business pitches along with our meals. But because we have first and second year students combined, for our chapter it's really hard because we can only have 6 people in class at a time. So we can't all get together, we can't practice, we can't have that nature like we usually do. And so it's just trying to find time before we shut down after Thanksgiving to practice and build our skills. It's just, for me, it's a much different challenge than for most of you guys, because most of you guys are like businesses or business, doing business related things. Whereas for me, it's more cooking and I have to be in class to cook. So yeah.
I think one way to, like, another challenge as for us is to keep engagement in your, like, with your members, and us as actual, like, our state officer team. I feel that we actually came out stronger than I even pictured due to COVID, just because I think we're talking a lot more than we probably would have if we would see each other in person. And I'm kind of grateful for that, honestly, because if we didn't talk, like, we all have a Snapchat group. That's just the way that we interact, and we talk on that. And I believe that just making sure that you guys are in sync and talking, not just having a meeting once a week, is probably a good way to do it too.
Yeah, Madison makes a good point, and it's pretty easy to feel isolated and alone in this. I mean, in just the nature of COVID and how we prevent it is not by gathering and hanging out all the time. So I think that having other open forms of communication are really important to kind of keep that togetherness feel that I talked about earlier about DECA. And I think that's something that's integral to a lot of people's DECA experience. So I think that that's really important too. Samantha, you're from St. Cloud Technical Community College. Tell us a little bit about what the year has been like for you, and what are some things that you guys have had to overcome. I know that you guys are mostly like almost 100% virtual, right?
Yeah, the only thing for our campus that would be in person would be like either culinary, like nursing, like labs only. Otherwise, they even have like lectures online, and then like the mechanics in the shops. And that's if they can't have a lecture online. Otherwise, everything's basically online, and campus is almost empty all the time. I actually just went to campus today, and it was weird because it's like the commons and everything's just like less than 10 students.
Yeah.
But for like DECA wise, honestly, even between officers, we don't know our officers that well. Like we don't communicate on Snapchat or anything. One of our officers is older, so like she would not have Snapchat, and I don't think she would use it, even if she did. So like we haven't really connected with each other yet, and we haven't done anything with members, honestly. We've just had the officers participate in stuff so far, mostly.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, right? I mean, it's completely different than any of us expected, and completely different than any of us probably want the world to look like right now. And Madison said it before, but I think it doesn't have to be Snapchat. It doesn't have to be Zoom. I mean, it can be anything really, but I think that finding a way to just have an open dialogue or communicate with members and with officers is really important, because I think that's, and it doesn't even have to be about DECA. I mean, I think that just having that that communication is pretty important.
Yeah,
Go for it, Samantha.
we were actually gonna do something in person, which has been postponed again because somebody had to like go back to their hometown and do stuff there. So like they wouldn't have made it. So we would have just rescheduled so that everybody could be there. But otherwise, we were gonna do a pizza party at like Pizza Ranch or something after, like in between events going on before the leadership stuff started. We were gonna do it like the week before and then like do something after, but like everything's just fluctuated so much that it's more of rolling with it than anything else. So that's the other thing, is I haven't even met my other officers in person ever, other than the one that I've seen from last year.
Yeah, and I mean, it's tough. It's not easy. Us officers our state officers, we met in person at the state conference in February, and we met in person once over the summer for training in like, I don't know, it was July, I think. It's important to acknowledge it's not what any of us really desire. It's not what any of us wanted this year to look like, but it is what it is, and I'll keep saying it again. It's our job as leaders to really make the best of it. So, does anyone else have any barriers that Madison, you open that mic up. Do you have something to say?
Well, I was gonna enlighten the group because I believe DECA Connect, is that what is going to be happening soon, right? Is DECA Connect? Yes, Act, not yes.
So
that it's coming, right?
Yeah. So Jenny is gonna take this one, I think.
Let me
Thank
answer
you.
that question,
let the
Madison.
boss answer that one.
Oh God, don't, okay. So hi everyone, if you didn't know, I'm the Executive Director of Minnesota Collegiate DECA. I usually am just the creeper in the background, just hanging out to make sure everything runs correctly. I'm not trying to be weird. And if you were at Tuesday's session, then you know my face. So anyway, what Madison is asking about is DECA Connect. It's the new social media platform that DECA has created this year. It was something that they had in the works, but because of the events of this last year, they sort of made it a priority because there were obviously going to be things that we couldn't do, like ICDC, unfortunately. And so they took those resources and put it into ways that we could connect virtually while we were trying to navigate this new world that is the pandemic world, right? And so what DECA Connect is, it's going to feel very familiar if you are familiar with LinkedIn. It's a little bit like LinkedIn mixed with a little bit of Facebook. And so you've got the opportunity to connect with other members from Minnesota, connect with other members from across the entire DECA Inc. Collegiate DECA, and from all sorts of states and associations and chapters. And then they also have resources for news items and information about upcoming events that DECA Inc. is hosting and those sorts of things, especially with regards to things like Engage. And I know with the leadership conference that they did about a week, 2 weeks ago, some number of days ago. Yes, that was also something that was hosted. It was not only advertised but hosted through DECA Connect. So how do you get involved with DECA Connect? When your advisor registers you as a chapter with our national organization, DECA Inc., they need to make sure that they provide an email address. And once that email address is provided to our DECA Inc. Staff members, you should receive an email inviting you to DECA Connect because it is based on being a paid member of Collegiate DECA. So if I know with Zach, we have, because this is a new platform, they just rolled it out this summer. So I know that they are working out some of the kinks in terms of how we get that invite to you. And your advisors aren't used to necessarily putting in your email addresses when they do that, when they register you through DECA Inc. So I know with Zach, with his particular chapter, he sent me a list of all of the members and their email addresses. I fired that off to DECA Inc. And so that chapter should have received, they should have been resent their invites. And I know that that's not the only chapter that happened with. So if you know that your advisor has registered you and you have not received an invite, you can certainly let me know at the mncoldeca@gmail, and I can make sure that we get that information to DECA Inc. so we can get you on the platform. So there, that's the answer to that question.
I believe it also lets you connect with your group personally too. I think there is a group tab that I've seen on DECA Connect, so you will be able to be a part of your chapter as well. So it'll let you connect and talk to them more and just be structurally better. Like I said, us as Snapchat, it's not an official DECA thing, so of course not everyone would have it. It's just so happened that we all had it. So DECA Connect definitely would be a lot easier to talk to your chapter with when it happens with you guys or anyone at that point. All right, do we have any other, does anyone want to talk about any other challenges that they have overcome with their chapter? Otherwise, we can move to the next subject.
So does anyone have any questions otherwise about anything we've discussed so far either?
Yeah, true too. All right, so we will move on. So the next subject we will talk about is, how does your chapter raise funds, like do fundraisers or just raise funds in general? I know for us, we talked about doing more online focused fundraisers, whether that's, Jackson had one last year. Are you there, Jackson? Could you talk about yours?
Yeah, I had a couple of nonprofits that I associate with that used a script program. So they buy gift cards from companies. Let's say Target, for example. Target will sell us a $100 gift card for like $92, and we can go and sell that for $100, and then $8 will be donated to us through that. So a lot of companies did that. I talked to Quick Trip about it, and I have some people there, and they were on board with that. So that was just something that I kind of did to try. It's really complicated because you have to have the funds first, and our chapter does not have a set bank account. We have an account with our school, but not an actual bank account that we could use for that. So that was something that I looked into that I don't want to say flopped, but showed a lot of potential. And yeah, so it was shopwithscript.com is what it was called. But that was one of my ideas. And I know, like I said, nonprofits that have made thousands of dollars off of it to put towards their donations.
But yeah, I felt like that was a pretty good fundraiser because honestly, with the holidays coming around, people buy gift cards more than anything, and it doesn't matter where they buy it from. If they help out someone, I mean, it'll make them feel better. They're given a gift and they're donating money. Who could ask for more?
And I really liked it because it had, they were working on a online gift card. So that would be less interaction, less cost at this time to mail it because we wouldn't really want to deliver it in person right now. And that was something where we wouldn't even have to, I could press a few buttons on my computer and it would send it to them. Money would be sent back. So that was nice. And that was even pre-COVID when we started doing that.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a good thing to discuss. I mean, fundraising this year looks quite a bit different. It does have to be, it doesn't have to be, but likely is going to be a lot of virtual contactless options. Yeah, and I think that's another thing that Jackson talked about that I think is a challenge for, I think, all DECA chapters, probably maybe not all, but most, is that they don't have their own like set up bank account. Like it's through the school account because your school student org, which does make for a bit more bureaucracy and makes things more difficult, and especially now. But it's just another hurdle that we all have to jump through as well. Does anyone from the masses, I don't want to monologue it up here the whole time, have tips or tricks or anything that they have done, might want to do related to fundraising for their chapter that they might want to shout out or something like that?
I know that we talked about, and again, I know that you don't want to hear just from our chapter, but I thought I would bring it up since it could help other people. So PushSave actually does all contactless fundraising, and they're just mobile coupons, or like a mobile coupon book. So if you just go to pushsave.com, you can make an account, and basically you just sell, so like those cards that you'd sell in like high school as a football team or whatever, you sell them to like your network and your people, whatever, but it's all online. You don't have to go door to door. There's no like merchandise that you have to handle. There's no cash product, whatever, which is nice. And then again, with the bank account thing, that could be a problem that you kind of have to work out with your school. But as far as like contactless and not worrying about like COVID restrictions and stuff and, you know, going door to door, I'd say PushSave is a really good option because there's a lot of youth sports teams and clubs and schools and stuff like that that have actually earned like enough money to waive all their membership fees and stuff like that. So I put the website in the chat, but yeah, that's just like one little shout out. So obviously something you can look into. Whether or not you do it is a different story, but as far as contactless fundraising, that can be difficult. So that is one option that I know we as officers, Zach, and our other two have talked about. So
Thank you, Megan. Yeah. Does anyone else have any fundraising questions? Are cool too, because I know that it's a lot of uncertainty about what the next 4, 5, 6 months look like as far as school and DECA and everyone else's lives too. So that can also make fundraising trickier when you don't know what necessarily you're planning for as well. Does anyone have any questions in that regard or comments as Madison opens up her mic?
Well, I had another idea that our chapter president is trying to pull for a fundraiser, and it's actually a really good idea. So I thought I'd give it a share because a lot of chapters could do this. So your bookstore, it sells merchandise, you know, not concessions, but like school merch. So generally when merchandise is sold, they come in packages that are like airtight. I don't know the general thing, but that's how I imagine it. But anyways, you would basically see if you could make a deal with the bookstore because they're probably trying to sell their merchandise, and with us being a business club, we might be able to sell it more, and that's something that we could have a stand up in the quad or wherever you go for student gatherings. I know generally we're all online, but if there is somewhere that you guys still meet up, that would be somewhere to sign up for a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, and then you'll get it later in a ship date. You could provide an address or something like that. Otherwise, you could go totally online, share photos of that as well, and create a ordering thing for it. This is on the spot, by the way, but that's how I imagine it would work out. And I think it's a pretty good idea. It would let you try to sell merchandise, and the bookstore would honestly probably work with you guys because they're in need too. You would just get a percentage of the profits, but it's a good thing to work with.
Well, and it's really difficult because we're going through a pandemic. So it's definitely really difficult to do fundraising, but we can also discuss previous years, like what organizations or what chapters have done in previous years for fundraising. Like I know MSUM, we have the ability to sign up for these Fargo Forest dates where we can work concession stands at the Shields Arena, and we're able to get a pretty decent amount of money from being able to participate in helping sell concessions and stuff there while they have hockey games and stuff. I know other organizations too at MSUM, Paralegal Association even, they sign up for those too because it's a really, really good way to raise money and stuff. So if you know previous years, like how your organization has gone about or how your chapter has gone about fundraising too, you can also talk about that as well.
I know for us, we begged at Hy-Vee, one of the local grocery stores here, and not only begged, but we also had a table up front and, you know, tip buckets when we begged and just a regular donation bucket. And that seemed to pull up pretty well. We didn't have participation through our members as much since we're such a small club, but for the members we did have, we racked up a good sum of money. Does anyone else have traditional fundraisers that you guys did in the past?
Well, speaking maybe untraditional, Madison, do you want to tell people about the what is it, like a dance you guys do or something like that towards the end of the year, or you have done in the past?
I believe that Kale knows more about that. I was there for 1 year before. This is my second year in the chapter. So I think Kale's pretty passionate about that. Let's let him speak for that.
The music
it's actually not a fundraiser. What it is it's actually one of our give back to the community events. What we do is I'm blanking right now on what we call it. Oh, Project Compass. That's what it is. What it is we work with some of our community members to get people with like special needs and special disabilities to be able to create the social event for them to go out and meet like all their friends that they normally won't be able to see and that sort of thing. And we, as DECA, we provide like prizes to hand out to them as like a fun party. We buy like pizza, water, all this sort of stuff. And we kind of just throw like a huge dance party for them to get them out in the community, get them involved with each other, you know, learning the social networking skills, all that sort of stuff. It's a load of fun, except this year we weren't able to because of the whole COVID thing. But we started talking as our chapter of how can we move past that and still do it. And one of our chapter president came up with the idea of doing an online one. So we would have like an open mic thing where, you know, you could put lyrics up on the screen and have them sing at home, and then you could have them like make popcorn, or we could deliver like pizzas to their homes, and we could have like an online Zoom sort of dance. That way we can still get that social interaction with the community and whatnot. But yeah, it's a load of fun, and it's a great give back to communities.
I know we didn't just spend our funds on it. We also asked for donations around the community because we are giving back. We are hosting. We cleaned up. We set up. You know, we hosted the whole thing. So we went around and asked local businesses like Fastenal. They donated their water. They got plenty of water. We'll just say that. They donated water, and then we donated presents. And honestly, the prizes, presents, whatever, they were just like dollar store items, to be fair. They weren't anything extravagant, and the people who participated loved it because they never get stuff like that. And it's just it's a fun dance. It happened around Christmas time, so they were all in ugly sweaters, just having a good time.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad I got to bring that up, even though it wasn't necessarily fundraising related, but it's still a pretty cool thing you guys do. If anyone has any fundraising questions or anything else, any other items for discussion, the floor is yours. We've exhausted our topics list for the afternoon. Does anyone have anything at all they would like us to discuss? We can talk about our experiences as state officers, maybe a little different than in other years, but we're willing to tell you anything you want to know. Yeah, any questions about anything DECA or anything not? Okay, well, for those of you that are here, you're here because obviously DECA is at least to some level important to you. You're one of the few that were able to make it today, and I know all our officers appreciate it, and I think we've had a good discussion with all of you. And yeah, and I think if any of you are interested in running for state office at all or anything like that, I think that any of this state officer team would be willing to talk you through it. Our experience has certainly been unique as far as state officer terms go, but I think we've made the best of it that we could, and I think that you know, it's you still are. I think we've still made the connections that we would have otherwise, at least with each other, and I think that that's most important. So
yeah, and don't. Oh, I was going to add on to your speech to help you out.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So don't, if this all is happening next year again, let's hope not. But if it does, don't let that shy away from you, honestly. Because just because you're not talking in front of a crowd, you're still public speaking. And just because the crowd's smaller, you get to talk to them. Like, you get to actually talk to them face to face, but more face to face you would ever be if you were with them in person. Because if this would happen in person, we would probably have like 100 at least people there, and we wouldn't have personal conversations like these. So yeah, be grateful for that. Honestly, we're getting experience either way, and it's better to not be negative about it. Just be positive and you get to network and meet more people that matter.
Yeah, and God forbid if this is this scenario next year like this. We hope not, obviously. But again, like I don't think that after a year of virtual everything that's going to completely go away in the future. Like obviously we hope we're in person and able to see each other and give high fives again or something, but this format isn't going to go away 100%. So I think that it's still a good skill to have, to be able to talk to people through a screen and know how to do so professionally as well. So Jenny has put up the slide here with some information about how to run for state office. You can go to our website, our state officer tab, and learn a little bit more about it there. The applications will be due February 1st of 2021. That's a couple months away, so you have some time to think about it. Also, I think towards the end of December, I think it's on the schedule, Amy and I are actually going to do a podcast about running for state office as well. So if anyone doesn't have any other questions, now is the chance.
I got one thing to say.
Go ahead, Kale.
As we have all these emerging leaders in our Zoom call right now, I challenge you to run for the officer positions. I challenge you to take what we have with this pandemic and try to make it the best possible year. Obviously, we're kind of, stumbling along, trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to switch from completely in person to completely online with a lot of our normal yearly tasks that we do. I'd love to see what you guys have in store to or your ideas of how we can incorporate more DECA members, how we can get more people involved, and how we can make it more, make all of us more connected through DECA.
Well, does anyone have any final burning questions? Now is your opportunity. If not,
I think 3 times a charm, Zach.
One thing before you guys kind of close this up, I just want to say thank you to not only the state officers for doing the job that you guys do. This is a hard year, and as it's been mentioned many times, it's a hard year for everybody. We're all trying to navigate what is a new, and I know everybody hates this term, new normal, for all of us are trying to navigate a new normal and try to make it make sense and try to make it work into the things that we need to get done. And so I appreciate you guys being here and doing the work that you're doing. I really encourage you to consider running for state office. I'm a former state officer. Jacob Ward is a former state officer. You also have heard from, if you were part of Innovation Summit, or you've looked at the podcast, James Elvidge, the Winona advisor, is a former state officer. And I think that if you guys want to take just a real quick second and speak to the ability to be a student and also try to be a state officer is very possible. Don't worry, it's not like we're going to suddenly be like, okay, you're a state officer, it's all yours, you have to do everything, and you don't have to. I take into account that you are a student. You can't be a state officer unless you are actually a student, and you have and in DECA. And so we have to make sure that you are surviving being a student in DECA first. So go ahead, state officers, and maybe if you want to talk about that, but I really do encourage you, if you're thinking about it, investigate it. We would love to see your faces up there.
To Jenny's point a little bit about the time commitment a little bit, we have one of the bigger state officer teams in, as far as people go, the amount of people on the team than in recent history, I think. And we've still been able, and in a pandemic, when everyone's schedules are way different than they ever have been, we're still able to make the time to all of us get together and stay on the same page and make sure we're getting done what we need to get done. It's really, if it's possible now with 6 of us, it's certainly possible with whatever next year brings, I think. So that's what I'll say about that. I don't know if any other officers have anything to add.
For me, it really brings out your inner leader. Personally, I was kind of shy, mostly shy, timid. I don't know. I was quiet. We'll just say that. And I'm not really quiet anymore. I feel like keep people accountable. And it very much like, don't think because you're quiet or like because I don't know, you're wimpy, you're not wimpy, you're not quiet, you just got to be opened up, and this will open you up and make you the person, the loud person that you want to be, you know, the leader that you are. So yeah, that's what I love about being a state officer, because I really didn't think I could do it. I didn't know what I was doing when I signed up for it. It was just something in my inner ear said to do it. It was James, to be honest. It was my chapter advisor. But regardless, I don't regret it. It opened me up. So that's my point right there. JP, do you got anything? What does DECA do for you? I'm calling people. Let's go out. I'm on a roll.
Did you call my name? Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing I want to say is that Jenny does a wonderful job at making it sort of easier for us. Like, I don't think this would be, I think we'd just be a scrambling team if it wasn't for Jenny being able to, like, if any one of us is like a true leader here, I think Jenny is the leader. She's definitely the true leader out of all of us. And it would be very, very difficult if she wasn't so lenient with our schedules, because it's definitely with 6 people, very difficult to get us all together at the same time. So thank you, Jenny. Does anybody else, any of the other officers have anything to add?
I just got to say, I was very hesitant on whether or not to join the state officer team, but I'm glad I did. I did a lot of talking with Chet Morgan to like, I was like, Chet, what is it all involved? Like, what am I going to be throwing myself into? Because the way I kind of first glanced at it was, holy crap, you know, this is a huge time commitment. That this is going to be like another job essentially, where you have to be there, you know, for how many hours a week, you know, pushing. But it's honestly been fun, and I'm glad I've been part of it. I highly recommend it to anyone that wants to kind of put themselves in a leadership position and grow as a person.
I love that you spoke with Chet. Musical minds unite.
Yeah, our conversation started off with the with a pretty funny picture of the wrong hotel room. Oh, yeah, it's another story for another day. But I don't know if you guys do. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, Twitter, all them platforms. That way you can keep up to date with all the different information about conferences and what's to come throughout the rest of this year with our state competition, as well as our international competition, and our podcast, and just kind of keeping connected with DECA in general. I think I can say this for all of us. So thank you for being part of DECA and our 2020 Emerging Leaders Academy. I hope you guys have a great day, and hopefully I'll see you soon running for state officers.
All right, thank you guys so much for coming. If you have anything else you want to add, please do now. Otherwise, I know you guys are busy people, and you can get off to the busy things that you have to do today. So we will be sending out, just to let you know, we will be sending out one more email this evening, and that's a survey and then the link to this particular session. So if you have other people in your chapter who weren't able to attend, let them know that that'll be coming out there too. So thank you guys for coming, and thank you for spending this week with us.